Yeah. We're here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Tackling Turnover with Teamwork. Let me just make sure all of my... Hey, good morning. It's Trent. Let me make sure everything is good. Facebook, let me make sure everything's good with the sound. Yes, Facebook. What's up, Facebook? Welcome. Tackling turnover with teamwork. You know how we get down Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday. You see the topic today. It is going to be a great weekend. Great day. All right, so Facebook, we're good. Let me go check LinkedIn. How you doing over here, LinkedIn? What's going on, LinkedIn? Let's see. I'm just reading the message here. All right, let's go. Events. LinkedIn. What's up, LinkedIn? Great day. All right, so Facebook, we're good. Let me go check LinkedIn. All right, share. Over here, LinkedIn. What's going on, LinkedIn? Let's see. All right, good. So LinkedIn, we're good. Let me just repost it on mine here, and we're gonna go YouTube, which is probably my biggest platform. Make sure we're all straight. YouTube. Let's get through the ads real quick. Bum. Happy Friday to you folks. All right, here we go. All right, YouTube is good. Happy Friday to you folks. All right, here we go. YouTube's good. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Welcome. Another episode of Tackling Turnover with Teamwork. As one, Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. Back again. Happy Friday to you folks. So before I get into today's topic, which we already know what we're talking about today, talking about the greatest, the best ever. Again, I'm there, granted, maybe a little bit biased, but the best rivalry in high school football. We will be discussing and diving into that. We are set for a 20-year. They're about to clash again in 20 years. It's a 20-year anniversary of pretty much Good Counsel DeMatha going at it for the WCAC championship. So before I get into all that, let me get through some announcements real quick. And then I got to get into one of the main current events, something that just happened last night that I have to give my thoughts on, immediate thoughts. I'll have another video dedicated strictly to this current event, but I have to give some initial thoughts on it for the time being. But before we get started, before we get too into all of that, let me get into some announcements first. First of all, West Palm Beach. If you are located in the West Palm Beach area and you're interested in free boxing lessons, you heard me correctly, free boxing lessons, be sure to hit the QR code right there. We're starting actually tomorrow. We'll be starting at Okalele Park. It's going to be at Okalele Park, and we're going to be doing it every 2 weeks thereafter. Just hit the QR code there. Message me if you are interested and you are in the West Palm Beach area. Next thing, business owners, if you have not yet, go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com and get your free guide on how to use it. I created 10 steps, 10 ways in which you could use innovative teamwork to reduce the turnover in your business. That is 1,000% free, and you need to have that currently. If you do not have that, you're missing out. I'm telling you right now, you are missing out if you do not currently have that guide. And next thing, make sure you tap into the Patreon link. There's an option. Looking to see if I have a thumbnail for it. I don't have the thumb. All right, I don't have the promo for it yet. Wait, do I have it? No, not yet. All right, so I do now have a Patreon link. It's patreon.com/as1C44. I'll have more information about that as we go along. But I'm currently now officially a public figure. All right. And I did create a Patreon membership for the business owners, and there's certain tiers to the membership that is available right now. It's titled, let me make sure because the link just got published. Yes. Patreon.com/Aswand44. Make sure you tap into that Patreon link as well. All right. So as far as today's topic, before I get into Good Counsel, DeMatha, and I talk to you guys about the rivalry and what it's all about, let me just put my hat on. Let me put my hat on. Put my hat on as I address this major news. All right, Bryce Underwood, the nation's top recruit from Michigan, has officially flipped LSU. He flipped LSU, and he is going to be a Michigan Wolverine. Now, granted, again, I'm a fan of the team, super fan. I'm happy for the excitement. I'm happy that, we're relevant because we damn sure ain't been relevant on the field. I'm happy to an extent that, there's something we as Michigan fans can share about. However, at the same time, all right, and this is going to kind of lead in to what we're going to be talking about today. The same time, it's very important that we as Michigan fans do not get too excited. Understand what won us the national championship last year was not actually a dominant pass game. All right. JJ McCarthy was a good quarterback. Yes. But we know the balance that we had for the previous 3 years. We've had a solid ground game. And that was a real compliment to what JJ McCarthy was great at. JJ McCarthy was a great player, but he also had great speed. He can threaten the defense with his run and all that. And one of the things that we have to be very cautious about, because I've seen this. All right. Seen this. In fact, it was back when I was living in Maryland. I was a scout for a company named FBU. And when I was living in Maryland, it was right when DJ Durkin took the job at Maryland. And it was the same feeling that we as Michigan fans are getting when we see this. It was the same feeling when DJ Durkin signed a player named Kasim Hill. And Kasim Hill he went to St. John's, hometown hero, the same story. All right. Same story, new coach, hometown hero, all that stuff. All right. And unfortunately, what happened is Kasim Hill, I think he got like an ACL injury, and I'm knocking on wood. I'm not saying that this is going to happen with Bryce Underwood. I'm praying that it won't happen with Bryce Underwood. But the point of me bringing this up is it's important that people understand football, regardless of the level, it's not going to be about just one quarterback or one player. One player is never going to be the reason that a team achieves success and a team makes it all the way or gets back to their winning ways, whatever it is you want to call it. It's going to be a group, an organization, a unit. So as great as it may feel to be a Michigan fan this morning and knowing that you got that not only did you get the number one recruit in the country, but the number one recruit in the country happens to be right in your backyard, 20 minutes away from your campus, which is a big deal when it comes to recruiting, keeping your recruits home, keeping your best players home. That is actually a big deal. As great as it may feel, it also has to be taken with a grain of salt to understand, hey, we can't just sit back and think that Bryce Underwood himself is going to solve the problem that we're currently seeing in this season, and he's going to be the only reason that we win. So, like I said, I don't have too much time to touch on that. I just have to get that off my chest because I am a fan of the team. I am happy that we're relevant. I'm happy that we're doing something in the recruiting world. Happy that we're actually in the news. Do it for something positives and not how much of a drop off we had from last year. But it is also important to make sure we know, hey, this is kind of the beginning of something, and Bryce Underwood has yet to prove himself on the collegiate level. So it's important that you don't get too excited. All right. So again, shout out to Coach Moore. I know that was an easy, and then not only necessarily shout out to Coach Moore, but whoever hooked up the NIL package and how they stayed relentless and they stayed after it and they got their guy. And again, tomorrow I'll give more of a take on that because I like Jaden Davis. I like his parents. I like the kind of the school he came from. I like the foundation that he has. I like his mentality, and I would have loved to see Jaden Davis be that guy to take us to the promised land and all that. But hey, again, this is a business, and the way the business works. It's incredibly what can you do for me now business, filling a need business. And again, I'll touch on more of that tomorrow. So again, shout out to the Michigan, the hand clap. Let's get a hand clap. Let's get a hand clap. Let's get a hand clap to the Michigan Wolverine faithful. All right. So as far as today, we're going to be discussing another powerhouse, 2 powerhouse programs. As you can see, Sunday, November 24th, 2024, we have yet again another classic matchup between 2 powerhouse programs. Again, I'm a little biased because I graduated from one of those programs, the Good Counsel Falcons. So I'm part of my heart. You know, my heart is with them. I went to the first game this year when they played Columbus out in Miami. I had an opportunity to speak to the boys before. You know, there's still the same hunger in their eyes. A lot of the same coaches that coached me are still there. Some of my teammates are there. It was like, you know, as I walked on the field, like my memories were just like, it was being rushed with memories. I wanted to put my pads on. I was ready to go. It was crazy. It was crazy. So whenever you see the colors, you see the Good Counsel versus DeMatha. It's the week before Thanksgiving. It's like, regardless of where you are in life, you always get, if you played in it, again, if you played in these games, and I played in, it was 3 in a row. I was there. I was a part of it. A part of those 1-point losses, overtime losses, 1 or 2 plays here and there. The whole thing changed my entire, like, so much. So many memories come back, especially if we're talking about that location, Navy, Marine. Like when we're talking about that location, there's a lot of stuff that starts brewing up in me when you start thinking about that rivalry, to the point where I had to dedicate my entire show today about how this rivalry got started, what it's all about, how it still affects me to this day, how it still affects everybody who played in this game, and more than like on the macro level, how it affects people who have played the game and played it the right way and really been around tough competition, what competition does to you, how much, you know, being around competitors, real competitors, how much of it brings out of you, how much are you willing to go, how much can you take, how strong are you? That's what that game is all about. It's just about haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. Woo! Woo! Okay, so before I get started, so I'll take you through a couple key points, in my opinion, for at least from my perspective, of this rivalry. But before I do, I put together, this will be the only clip I show you guys throughout this entire episode today, but I put together a video compilation of what this rivalry is all about and how much it actually does mean to people and how deep it actually goes. All right.
Playing against DeMatha, you guys kind of renew that rivalry. They didn't make it there last year. Does it kind of up the ante to be playing DeMatha in that?
Oh yeah, you know they just got a great program, a lot of tradition, a lot of championships, and you know we played them in the championship game down in Navy 5 years in a row and got beat. Then we have won the last 3, not all against them, and you know so it's the same old rivalry, and. You know, they play real hard against Good Counsel.
What does the streak of championships mean to you?
Anyone, we know that's what we're going to face. You know, you're not going to play good teams like Good Counsel, and they're not going to make plays. So it's expected, and when it comes, we just are prepared to deal with it, and our kids did a great job in doing that.
What about the way both teams raised their level of play? I mean, this was the championship stage, and both teams played very well. It might have been the best game I've seen all year in the WCAC.
You know, that's just what it is. I mean, a great Good Counsel team, great coaches, great players, and you know, whenever we match up and square off, this is what you're going to get, high-level football, and they bring the best out of us as we do them. So, you know, this is exactly what we love.
Before the year, some idiot analysts, such as myself, said you guys might be too young. Was there a turning point this year where the young team kind of got it?
Yeah, sports show.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Washington Post High School Sports Show.
Hello.
Yeah, great. Time for our Geico Big Game, and in terms of coaching names, well, it doesn't get much bigger than DeMatha's Bill McGregor, seeking his 200th career victory. But standing in his way, Good Counsel's Bob Milloy, who's going after his 281st victory. That's more than any active coach in Maryland. Both coaches have their teams off to unbeaten starts, but as they say in the biz,
something's gonna have to give.
Well done. Mark Thomas is here with our Geico Big Game. What do you say?
What do I say?
Yeah.
You know, everybody said when Bob Milloy was hired at Good Counsel, it wasn't a matter of if he would have success, but rather when. And clearly, sitting on an unbeaten record right now. They are one of the most pleasant surprises of the season. They play mostly underclassmen. As for DeMatha, they're never really a surprise. Two of the guys that have really stood out are wide receiver Derek McPherson and quarterback Joe Dana. Dana once attended Good Counsel, so you know this one is special to him. And get this, Chick.
Yeah.
When he was in the 8th grade, he interviewed DeMatha head coach Bill McGregor for a homework assignment. Now, I don't know what kind of grade he got on that paper, but I do know that right about now, his coach gives him an A+ for his midseason progress report. We're hoping our Geico big game is just as good.
I waited 17 years for this, man. 17 years. Came back to Navy, played against DeMatha, and we number 1, baby. Hey!
Oh, yes, go, baby. See, that last one, it's funny because that last one, I made sure that last clip was actually from last year's championship, and I played with Drew. I played with Drew for 2 seasons. It was my 1 season. He was a year above me. He was a senior, and I was on varsity. Actually, technically a year and a half because I got moved up my sophomore year to varsity, and he was a junior. And then my junior year, I became a starter, and we're actually, he was the DN at that time. During that game, actually, against DeMatha, they moved him from DN to corner. They moved him DN to corner. He was one of those dudes where we had to move him from DN to corner to guard a guy named Kenny Tate. Kenny Tate, they actually became teammates at the University of Maryland, which that's where I'm actually going to start. But I'm going to start, at the University of Maryland because that's kind of where the whole thing starts. But let me just give you this story real quick. So Kenny Tate was he was a first team All-American, U.S. Army All-American for DeMatha, and I played against Kenny Tate when I was at the White Oak Warriors. He was at Peppermill, and I remember, Kenny Tate was him. He was him even back when we played against him in Little League, and Kenny Tate was a year younger than me, so he was a sophomore that year. I was a junior, and Drew, the guy you just saw, was a senior, right? And Kenny Tate was easily him. Him. That's what the kids say these days. He was him. He just absolutely was that receiver that they just throwing the ball up to, and he just was making plays. So they moved Drew from they moved Drew from defensive end to corner, and he shut Kenny Tate down that entire game. And then he also made a huge play offensively in overtime during that game. We lost that game by 1 point, but he made a huge play in the overtime game. It was like a bubble screen. He comes and he makes a huge play. So there's a lot to get into. And right there, I'm going to start right there because I remember last year when the cameras caught him saying that, and he just screamed, I waited 17 years for this, 17 years for this. Everybody that's played with them, everyone that was at Good Counsel that particularly was in that football program around that time felt it. I mean, there were people coming out of nowhere. Again, me, I'm posting stuff every day. Most of my posts, when it comes to social media, all of that stuff is automated. A lot of times I don't even realize what's being posted because I batch a lot of the posts that come out. But as I remember that particular day when we officially won it, I was seeing former teammates, guys coming out and, 06, 07, 08, like people that were around during that time when he screamed it, because we all felt it. Everyone that has played in that game at that stadium. All right. It's a difference because at that stadium, there was a lot of things going on. There's just 1 or 2 plays here and there, just little things, literally little things that changed the fate. And we could have easily won the CAC championship years before we actually won it, like officially. All right. So let me take you back a little bit to the history and what this rivalry is all about and why to this day it means so much to us. All right. It means so much to everyone that's played in this game, everyone that's been a part of it. The Good Counsel versus the DeMatha rivalry, it is just so important to us because it teaches us about life. It teaches us about the small things. It teaches us It taught us that it's actually never over till it's over. It taught us that, going against real competition is the best thing you can do in life. And in fact, I remember when I got to Stony Brook, and I had a teammate that played on the DeMatha team that I played against when I was a junior. His name was Benji Clemens. Benji was a corner at Stony Brook, but he was also a running back when he was at DeMatha. And he was a senior. I was a junior, and I remember I got my first start. Let me just tell you this story again. I can go for hours and hours on this part. If you're in the chat and you've played in this rivalry, please, feel free to drop something in the chat and chime in and give me kind of your best Good Counsel versus DeMatha story. I would love to have it shared out here and read it and all that kind of stuff. But I remember it was my first start my junior year. My first start my junior year was against DeMatha. And the running back, I played linebacker. So the running back that our coaches, the Good Counsel coaches were just drooling all over, literally drooling all over this running back named Pat Mealy. And it's like, oh my God, you gotta tackle Pat Mealy low, man. You don't want to hit him too high. And, he's so good. Pat Mealy ended up playing for Army. And what happened was Pat Mealy, I think he had like an ankle situation. He wasn't 100% healthy. At least, he wasn't. I think it was actually the game we played him where I think his ankle got by. Some wrong. He wasn't 100% healthy. No, here's what. Yeah, it was the playoff game. The playoff game where I think he twisted his ankle. Something happened where he just wasn't all the way healthy, right? So I remember watching that and me being the linebacker that's about to play against him in the championship. I remember saying, "Oh man, Pat Mealy's down," and we were watching the game with some of my teammates. I think it was Bradley or something like that. But he just looks at me. He goes, "Don't even worry about it. The backup is nasty." Backup is just as good as Pat Mealy, and that backup happened to be Benji Clemens, who ended up being my teammate at Stony Brook. The same way Drew became teammates with Kenny Tate, and you had a Rodney McLeod and a Caleb Porzell. You can look at college rosters across the country. You're going to see Good Counsel, DeMatha, guys that, again, bitter rivals in high school. And now we had to represent where we were from in the football world, because one of the things I remember when I was talking to the guys in the first game this year when they came to Columbus, I'm out here in South Florida. I remember I was telling them, you don't get any respect coming from football in Maryland. But when you have that Good Counsel DeMatha jersey on, when you tell them this is where you play, you start to become known. And when you and the DeMatha guys that are on these college rosters, when you guys kind of get together, now you guys start to team up and say, we got to represent where we're from. We got to represent our region. We got to represent our state. And you don't do that unless you bring the best out of everybody. So, the first inklings I had of it, the first experience I had when it comes to this rivalry was in 2004. It was the summer of 2004. I'll never forget this. I will never, ever forget this, because this was I was a sophomore. I was a sophomore in high school, and this would be the first time that I'm playing against some real competition. For the years before, I played for the White Oak Warriors, and we played in some pretty big games. Again, a lot of the recruits that came from White Oak would either be ending up going to Good Counsel, Gonzaga, or DeMatha, or St. John's. We would be sprinkled among those four programs that become elite now, right? But in 2004, there was a Maryland camp where it was time for me to really step my shit up and say, all right, time to play some high school ball and really show people what I can do. And that mentality, I took that mentality with me throughout my entire life, right? So it's 2004, and we were blessed enough at Good Counsel to have the strength coach from the University of Maryland. His name is Dwight Galt, all right? You probably know the name if you're in the business. You know the name Dwight Galt. So Dwight had two sons that played with us. Was Tommy and Deej. Tommy and Deej were twins. They were twins, and they were seniors that year. And we just so happened to have a connection with the University of Maryland through them because their strength coach was there. So, there was a lot of, we'll say during that camp, during the University of Maryland football camp, this camp we had on shells. So we had on our shoulder pads and our helmets. And, you had the DeMatha guys there, and you had the Good Counsel guys there. We looking at these DeMatha dudes a little funny. The DeMatha dudes looking at us a little funny. You getting a little, you're getting those kind of funny looks and those dirty looks whenever you kind of walk by. I remember there was another linebacker I was in a group with. His name is Ian Thomas. I think he does a lot of work with Chase Young. And he was, at one point, he was the head coach at Pilati. But I remember that was like that. We were kind of looking at each other funny, which is just sort of funny looks, because he's seeing the Good Counsel on my chest, and then I'm seeing the DeMatha on his chest. It's just like, what you trying to do? However you want to do it, we can do it. We can wait till the fall. We can do it now. Whatever you trying to do, we can do. But that was the energy. That was the energy. So anyway, it was during that camp. Again, this is a 4-day camp. It's in the summer. You have your pads on. Where I walked in. I'd say I caught the back end of a conversation between Drew, who was the guy I just showed you. He's coaching the D line there now. Jerron Pearson, who was the running back. He was his senior. I walked in on a conversation with them, and they were talking to another DeMatha guy, right? So I saw Drew, and Drew, again, he's always been like that. That intensity that you see with him, it has not changed. He's been like that even when he was in high school. So I saw Drew telling Jerron. So Drew, pretend I'm Drew. Drew's here, Jerron's here, and the DeMatha dude is like right next to him, and he's looking at Jerron. He's like, "Yo, Jerron, I don't see them beating us in our own house." And he's saying that with the DeMatha dude right there. So he's like, I don't see them beating us in our own house. Because we played them at home that year. He goes, we get too hyped up in our own house. I don't see them beating us in our own house. And you saw that, again, I caught the end of it. The DeMatha dude really wasn't saying nothing. Like, he really wasn't engaged in trash talk or whatever. And the DeMatha was like, yeah. Because at the time, we had yet to ever beat DeMatha and like at the varsity level, right? We have yet to beat them at this point. We were, again, a program that was on the rise. So the DeMatha dude just kind of walks away. He doesn't talk anything or anything like that. And what happened was Jerron's face. Jerron, again, he's a senior. This is 4 years now of him getting that out, really feeling that feeling what DeMatha is all about. So I see Jerron kind of putting his head down, and Jerron's like, I don't think we're going to beat them, dog. I don't think we're going to beat them. And then Drew looks at him. He goes, what are you saying right now? What are you saying? What are you saying right now? Come on, baby. So he kind of had to pick Jerron up and say, come on, don't do this to me. Because, Jerron's the senior, Drew's the junior, I'm the sophomore. And everyone had to we had to start believing it within ourselves. And the reason I bring that specific story up, because that was the start of it. That fall, and this is back when Good Counsel was located in Wheaton. That fall was the first time ever, 2004, that fall, you can look it up if you want, but that fall, that regular season was the first time we ever actually beat them in a regular season game. And to go, I mean, the win was so special. It was so special for me in particular, right? Because of the name that I just mentioned, Jerron Pearson. Jerron Pearson played, he was the running back, and he played for my youth program. The youth program, I'm always talking about, the White Oak Warriors. He was the running back a weight class ahead of me. All right. Now, for those of you, again, let me educate you guys when it comes to youth football and all that stuff. Real quick, let me just educate you guys on something. When it comes to youth football, everybody that plays youth football wants to be a running back. Everybody wants to be a running back. Everybody wants to be a running back. Everybody wants to be a quarterback. And nobody wants to play O-line, a linebacker, or a DB or anything like that. I mean, DB, maybe. You really don't want to play DB until you get into a situation where you actually have to guard. But every youth football player out there wants to actually play running back. So it's morning. So what happened was, and I was no different. So I wanted to be a running back. I wanted to be that guy. And what happened was Jerron was a running back. He was him. He was one of those running backs where you as a kid, you have to watch and see him be a running back. And then you have to just kind of accept it and say, damn, I ain't no running back now. Because you see what a running back looks like. You see why he's the tailback. Because every game. So what happened was his games were after mine. I was the younger weight class. And it didn't matter what, every single game, after every single game, I would stay and watch the older guys play. And every single game I'd find a night. Again, I was a very shy, reserved kid, really focused, really only cared about football. Only time you can get me to speak is when we're talking football, right? So what I would do after every one of my youth league games when Jerron was a part of the program is I'd find a nice quiet spot somewhere in one of the parks wherever we were playing, and I'd watch the team ahead of me, and at some point Jerron would give me at least two. He'd give me at least two where he'd break off tackle and just fire out of there. See ya. He'd be out of there. Gone, baby. Gone. So you fast forward to 2004. Again, he's class of 05 because he's class of 05. So you fast forward to 2004. And it was the first time we played DeMatha. And we were right at maybe the 40, 35 yard line going in about to score. And Reggie, who was also another White Oak Warrior, he hands the ball off to Jerron. He breaks that thing to the left and the fastest 30 yards I have ever seen him run. And you got to understand, I used to watch him run back when he was in middle school, and to see that happen and then to go through camp and to go through off-season training and workouts with Coach Gold, all of that stuff just came out. And it was like, oh shit, we just beat DeMatha. It was like a shock. It wasn't something that anybody really expected outside of the program. Now, there was a lot of rumblings about it. There was a lot of, Good Counsel's arrived and all that kind of stuff. But again, the DeMatha folks have been a dynasty for years. They were not taking us seriously whatsoever. So let me just give you some frameworks for that week, because that week was a very, very special week. Just so we're clear now, we're talking some of the memories, some of the things that you guys see the headline right there. We're talking the Good Counsel versus DeMatha 20-year anniversary. So again, 2004 was the first time we beat them. So that year I was a sophomore at Good Counsel, and that was the first time I ever played against DeMatha. And again, I've been hearing about them for year after year after year. In the program that I came from, we're used to big games. We're used to playing in big games. We had just played at Florida, the White Oak Warriors, again, nationally known youth organization. This is what we do. This is what we're about. So it was my sophomore year when we played them we beat them, the JV team, we beat them, and then varsity beat them that Friday. So before our game, I'll never forget, before our game, we had Coach Bonasissi. Coach Bonasissi, he used to be the youth coach for the Silver Spring Saints. And the Silver Spring Saints, that team that was, one of the more dominant teams, because I remember they pushed us a couple of years. They brought him over to coach the JV program at Good Counsel. And when we went undefeated that year, it was my JV year. And again, it was a very special time, because my freshman year was a horrible, horrible time in my life. And for my teammates to vote me captain my sophomore year without me having played on the freshman team, I was like, again, it's not that I didn't care about my academics or I didn't care about school per se, but in terms of where I got my acceptance, in terms of what I really cared about in high school, it was the Good Counsel football program from that moment on, from the moment in which I was a sophomore, and me of all people being voted captain on a JV team that went undefeated. Again, I couldn't have thanked my teammates more for that. So this is why I do the work I do, why it means so much to me. Anyway, it was that game I remember. So before every game, we do a little, because it's a Catholic school, we go, Hail Mary, full of grace, and we say our prayers. And I remember this was the only game that Coach Bonasissi, this was the only time he didn't have to say anything. He did not have to say anything. Once we did our Hail Mary, full of grace, it was like, okay, guys, yeah, that's it. He did not have to say a single word. All right, did not have to say a single word, and we ended up beating DeMatha 22-0 that year. This is all 2004. So JV beats them 2004 in the regular season, and then varsity beats them in the regular season in 2004. And just to close out 2004 for a second. This game meant that we, regardless of how you felt about each other as teammates at Good Counsel, we had to come together. We had to come together, and we had to actually be a team. We had to come together, and we had to say, look, whatever beef and whatever issues that we may have had going into this game, we got to remove that shit now. All right. And I'll tell you a story, and then I'll move on to the next year that was kind of significant in this 20-year fight, this 20-year rivalry of the best high school football rivalry in all of high school football, Good Counsel versus DeMatha. So it was two players. I'll never forget Chris Daly. Chris Daly was a running back, And then the other running back we had, his name was Darnell Kemper. These were two running backs that were graduated. They graduated in 07. And this is good counsel football. So the tailback and the running back, it means a whole lot. It didn't just, Dylan Jones didn't just, we didn't land on Dylan Jones, right? There was a lot of great running backs that came before the one that's currently playing in Wisconsin. So we had those two running backs, and they're playing they were beefing all year, like constantly, every single week. It was Chris Daly versus Darnell Kemper. Who's the better running back? And they going at it. They don't like each other. They got to a point where at one point they almost got in a fight in lunch at one point because there's the constant clashing between those two about who the better running back is and who's going to replace Jerron. Jerron was just the big man on campus at that point. So it was all about, all right, who's going to be him, when Jerron graduates. This was actually before Caleb Porzell. So Caleb Porzell ended up being him. Hey, Caleb and Jelani ended up being that, but this was before Caleb and this was before Caleb and Jelani actually got on campus because they were 2 years younger than me. This is my sophomore year. So the conversation was about Chris Daly and Darnell Kemper in terms of who was going to be that running back, right? So they were going at it all year. They never really liked each other. I don't think they ever, for 4 years, I don't think they ever each actually ended up liking each other. They couldn't stand each other for the longest time. So even as a freshman, they were going at it. So anyway, I remember it was right before we were about to kick off again, or DeMatha was about to kick off to us that JV year, my sophomore year. And I remember Chris looking at Darnell. He goes, "Hey, man, no more beefing. No more." And for those of you who don't know, beefing means like going at each other and fighting each other. No more of the animosity, no more of the hate. We're teammates now, and we got to go get this win. Bang, 22-0. Buses skunked their ass. All right, we laid a goose egg on that ass. So 22. That was my first experience playing against them. Is we beat them we beat them 22-0 on the Wednesday night, and then the Friday night is when the varsity beat them. And again, we ended up losing by 1 point in the championship. This was the year that everybody talks about when Reggie went the wrong way and he pitched the option play, which, again, I'm still to this day very much against the play call in general, seeing that we had a Division I fullback in Anthony Davis. Went to UConn, played at UConn, where, again, I'm not going to question Coach Milloy's play caller there. Again, love him too much to really, trash his play caller right now. Love him too much. But if you just hand the ball off to the fullback, let him punch that in, and but again, we ain't going to do that. We ain't going to do too much of that because that's not the direction I want to take it. And if you really do think about it, Coach Milloy, although wasn't, known or the greatest play call or whatever, what I can tell you as a former player, and I could bring on multiple former players that have played for him, is his strength was about how much he actually cared, how much of a perspective he gave, and his honesty, his 1,000% honesty that he would always have with his players. Never lie to them. If you're playing shit, you're playing shit. If you're late, the attention to detail that he would give to special teams and punt and all that kind of stuff, to me, that's what made him the most winningest coach in any coaches in high school football in Maryland. It clearly was not his play calling. It was all about how much he cared, the way he delegated, and the attention to detail that he would have in terms of the overall game. When I say attention to detail, I don't necessarily mean the play calling per se, but I mean the making sure you're getting on double teams as the O-line, making sure the punt team is where it needs to be, making sure the punt return teams, the kickoff team, kick return, all of the facets of the game that made him such a special coach is he cared about the game from a macro standpoint, not necessarily from the standpoint of, the play calling has to be here and stuff like that. All right. So that's kind of just my take on it. I have more on that, but I don't have time to get to it. I got to fast forward from 2004 to 2009. All right. Because 2009 is when Good Counsel we finally, this one was special, man. Oh, this one was such a special win. All right, such a special win from 04 to 09. It's 04, 05, 06, 07, 08, 09. Oh, Heavenly Father, we finally beat the DeMatha Stags in a WCAC championship. All right, that's the difference. All right, regular seasons, we got tired of that. Got tired of just winning in the regular season. Got tired of, okay, we beat them in the regular season, and then we get to the playoffs, get to the championship, and we heartbroken. We got tired of that shit. It fucks with you. All right, as you can see, it still fucks with me to this day. I mean, I have memories, horrible memories. It makes me crazy just walking. In fact, there was a time, and I'll tell you the story, and then I'll get into 09, but there was a time in which I went to Navy. The only other time I've been to Navy than those games, those CAC championship games, there was a wine tasting. This was my nephew was like a newborn. I'll never forget this. My nephew was a newborn who's been, by the way, he's looking at going to DeMatha and St. John's and all that. But my nephew's a newborn, and I remember there was a wine tasting at Navy. There's a wine tasting at Navy. The Naval Academy had some little event that I went to, and that was the first time I had actually been at the stadium since the game. So I said, look, I ain't even gonna drink no wine. I grabbed my nephew. Now, obviously, we weren't giving my nephew any wine or anything like that, but I grabbed my nephew, and I'm looking over top of the entire stadium, looking over top of the entire stadium, and I'm just picture me and this newborn just watching the field, just like, wow, still just not being able to move forward from all of these memories, all of these heartbreaking losses. One interception I dropped here, the tackle I could have had, the one first down, the fumble we could have dropped. I mean, just so many things whenever you just walk into Navy Marine Corps Stadium, right? So finally, 2009, we finally get a win. And let me just give you an update on what my life was like, because I graduated in 07. So the 2 years from 07 to 09 were incredibly rough for me. All right. So I graduate high school, obviously get my high school diploma and all that. Then I went to Carson Newman College, which is a Division II program in East Jefferson City, Tennessee. That's where I signed out of high school, right? So go there. I redshirt at Carson Newman. However, I'm still, I'm competing with the guys I was hoping to get into the rotation. I wasn't liking the school per se, but at the same time, I really wasn't liking Good Counsel my freshman year, but I stuck it out. So there was pieces of me that thought that I was going to be able to stay at Carson Newman and just stick it out, stick with the program. That's just what it's going to be like your freshman year regardless, right? So go to Carson Newman. I go back for my second semester, even though I knew I wanted to transfer, but I just felt like it was going to get better. Again, we're freshmen. We don't know. We don't have all the answers. And you just got to stick it out during the tough times, which is what I advise a lot of young freshmen to do, even to this day, right? So I get back to Carson Newman in Tennessee for the second semester of my freshman year, and then boom, first workout. There's a first workout first of the winter workouts that year. Boom, I tear my ACL right here. I'll show you the scar right there to this day. Can you guys see that? Let me see if I can pull it closer. Yep, you see it, right? Boom, I still have the scar from it. Tear my right ACL, my freshman year at Carson Newman. Boom, football's done. Football's done for at least a year. Now, football wasn't going to be done, period. I wasn't going to end my career because of the injury, because, again, the program I came from, there's no way I was going to let that happen. But football was done for me for a whole year, all right, because of that torn ACL, and I had to rehab it. It had to get surgery. It was rough. It was rough beyond rough. So my sophomore year in college, I moved back home, and this was 2008, and this was the first time that Good Counsel and DeMatha played on ESPN. And there were still a lot of the guys that I played with who were younger guys. This is where the Caleb Porzels, the Tyler Campbells, the Jelani Jenkins, the Lewis Youngs, these kind of cats were on ESPN, and they just blasted DeMatha. Listen to me. They blasted them on ESPN, bro. The full game is still available on YouTube. It's 2008. I went to the game. I remember going to the game, and I got on the sideline, and a lot of my boys were texting me because they saw my face on TV and all that. I'm like, holy, what have we built here? This is only a year after, only 2 years after I graduated, and I'm seeing my guys, my team, my squad on ESPN, and this is during a time where I genuinely, like when I say my heart of hearts, I genuinely needed it because I just had knee surgery and I couldn't play. This was the first time I couldn't play since I was 7 years old. And you know the kind of programs I played for. So seeing that, I mean, I listen, again, I went back to my sophomore year, like this is it. This is it. This is the program. This is what I love to see. And, you know, we end up winning that game 42-14. Good Counsel beat them. Let that sink in for a second. All right, let that sink in. Good Counsel beats DeMatha 42 to what? Like just a couple years ago, we could barely, we were happy just to get a win, a close win, and we beat them on ESPN in 2008, 42-14. Can't make it up. This is what makes the rivalry so special. Now, unfortunately, they lost. We lost. I'm always going to own it. We lost in the championship. I know I wasn't playing, but it's still that loss. I felt that loss very much because I knew the guys. I knew Jelani. You know, Jelani's been on this show. Jelani's doing some great things between Jelani, Mike Walls, Darrell Miller. They called themselves Caleb Porzell. They called themselves the Four Horsemen. I knew them as freshmen. We knew they were going to be special as freshmen. Jelani, Mike, Tyler Campbell, Caleb, Darrell, these guys came in as freshmen when I was a junior. And this was the first freshman team to ever beat a DeMatha freshman team. All right. The year before was the first time a Good Counsel freshman team scored on a DeMatha freshman team. All right. Shout out to Coach Dickerson if you're listening. But the year after with Jelani and Caleb and them, this was the first time a freshman Good Counsel team beat a freshman DeMatha team, which was a big deal that not a lot of people know about. Not a lot of people realize how big of a deal that was. So by the time you got to their sophomore year with Jelani, not their sophomore year, but by the time you got to Jelani's senior year, when they're playing on ESPN and they stick one up, DeMatha's ass and they just spanked them all. At this point, we had moved to Olney. We had moved from Wheaton to Olney, and they spanked DeMatha's ass up and down the field on national TV. Do you think these DeMatha people did not like that one bit? Because this is national. This ain't no local shit. We just tapped that ass on national TV. I was texting my boys because we saw Caleb doing his thing. Texting my boys, I'm like, yo, you saw your boy out there playing? We used to call him Sanka back then because of the guy from Cool Runnings and shit. So we saw Caleb just balling, and he ended up being a teammate. He went to the University of Maryland with Rodney McLeod, who I saw yesterday. Not yesterday. Yeah, it was last night. Because I think he plays for the Browns now. So I think I did hear his name get mentioned. And, you know, he was a safety. He's a safety for the Browns. He's been in a safety in the NFL for a couple of years. But at that point, he was at DeMatha as he was a receiver and played corner, DB and all that, and played his ass off. And so that happened. That happened in 2008, and then we took a heartbreaking loss in the championship game at that same Navy Marine Corps stadium. So I remember I couldn't make that game, but I remember watching that on TV and was like, I was heartbroken. I mean, I was watching it. I remember my dad was watching it, and my dad was like, yo, I couldn't even watch anymore because it was a blowout. DeMatha returned the favor in 2008. When we got to the championship and DeMatha beat us as bad as they beat us. That one hurt because we came in as the favorites at that point to actually beat DeMatha, and to lose like that was a tough one. It was a tough one. But you know, again, it's darkest before the dawn, because 2009, and I know I said I was going to get to 2009, and I went on a long roundabout way of getting to 2009. But 2009, when we finally get over the hump and we win a WCAC championship, was incredibly special. All right. This was the first year I was back to playing. I got to Stony Brook in 2009. and I was finally back playing ball. It felt good. I was at my dream school. I'm at a Division I program. I'm running around, even though because I transferred in. This was before the transfer portal. So I transferred in. I wasn't eligible for any games, but I was able to practice with the guys, be on the sideline. I was able to be at the Division I program that I wanted to be at high school, but my grades weren't good enough, and I had to, work my way in and get my grades right and get in on my own merit and be on the football team and all that. So I had gone through a really I'll say a process, a difficult process to get into the school on my own and then be a part of the football team. It wasn't as easy as some of my teammates had it, to where a coach comes in, boom, you got a scholarship, boom. It wasn't like that with me. With me, I had to actually get in on my own merit and then prove I had the ability to actually play at the FCS level. And then I had to sit out a year because I transferred from a D2 to a D1. And then I had to deal with a knee injury and the knee surgery. All that stuff was going on. So 2009, I'm on the field. I'm finally out there competing, rumping, going around, throwing with them boys, and just loving being back playing football again. I enjoyed it. I was in the locker room, everything about it. I was loving it, right? So it's 2009, and Stony Brook is now in the Big South, right? And we had a huge game against Liberty that year, and it just so happened that game against Liberty was on the same day as the WCAC championship. This was the day. This was the day where I realized, man, this is a special, special, special game. And any given Saturday, any given weekend, some special, special things can be happening. So we had all this hype going into this game against Liberty because it was going to be the Big South championship. And the day, and I'm extra hyped because what happened was, I had a high ankle sprain, so I couldn't even practice with the guys. So I had to put on like my coach hat, my scout hat, and kind of do the things that I was going to be doing after football. So long story short, we beat Liberty 36-33, won on the last second play. And then as soon as I got back to my room, to my dorm, I checked my phone and I realized that we won, like Good Counsel won the WCAC championship. I'm seeing the world knows him as a comedian now, but this is where I was seeing this picture where Lou Young, he's holding the trophy. They're running around. They're excited. People are celebrating. This was the first time. This was after 5 years of getting our ass beat, and we finally get that win. It was a special, and it was like reverberate, like a ripple effect. Anybody that played in that game felt it because we finally win, and we know how special that was. And to hold that WCAC trophy, we all felt it. I remember going back. I remember when I finally made it back to Maryland and going to talk to Coach Gann. He was like, I thought about you. I thought about Golds. I thought about Drew. I thought about Anthony. I thought about Akeem, Reggie, Jerron, Tyrell. I mean, the squad, Chris, Zach, Nick. Oh, my God, Kendall. I mean, the names will just go on and on and on. That 2009 win, we finally got it. Coach Dickerson, Caleb, Jelani, the Michaels, Corey Boatman, Tyler. I mean, I could name after name after name. Boy, woo! We finally get that win, man. We finally get that win in 2009. To this day, I'm like, again, not to say that I wouldn't be a supporter of Louis Young, because I think he's incredibly talented in terms of his comedy. But he always got my support because that 2009 win was like it was something so special for all of us to see us finally get over the hump, beat DeMatha, and win the championship, and then to know that my team, the team I was currently playing on at the time, which was Stony Brook, to know that we just beat Liberty for our Big South championship. Anybody that was around me during that time, everyone that was in Long Island during that day, specifically that particular Saturday, knows that I got out of my mind drunk and just started giving motivational speeches. And it was like in tears, like in awe, because I could not believe it. It just, all of it just kind of took over me. All right. So as far as that happening, and I'll close you guys out with the current, the 2023 win that you guys just saw a bit of with Drew, and how much actually went into that 2023 win. It was a brand new. I still consider him Coach Stefanelli. I don't want to call him necessarily a brand new coach, but he he was somebody that I had met right after I graduated college. I graduated college 2011. So I graduated college 2011. My first job out of college, I was a college scout, and my job was to go look at high school players of every sport and see if they'd be interested in playing in college, and go talk to their parents and kind of be the liaison between them and a college program to play for. Again, job I'd be perfect at, seeing of what my experiences were. And this was, helping kids when it comes to finding maybe some D2 programs, D3 programs, and, NIA programs, FCS, all that kind of stuff. So again, coming from my background, was the perfect situation. So I remember going to a Good Counsel football game thinking, hey, look, they got all the exposure. They're big time now. They're not going to need somebody like me, but I'm going to go because I want to see my alma mater. I want to see how they're doing, and just be around the guys. I miss being around them, because now at this point I'm not playing football. I'm now more on the coaching and scouting side of it. So I get to it was a scrimmage. They were scrimmaging Roosevelt. And I remember Coach Milloy introducing me to Coach Stefanelli. And Coach Stefanelli was the just young assistant coach, and his son was the fullback. He was wearing my number 44. So his son Stefanelli at that point, one of his sons was the fullback. And I think he's a strength coach there now. But also there was a little one. There was a smaller one, not just the fullback, but then there was a smaller one running around out there, and me and Coach Steph were kind of chopping it up about that and all that. So fast forward to 2016, when I moved from Maryland to South Florida, it happened to be Coach Milloy's last game was against DeMatha. And, at that point, Coach Stefanelli was the head JV coach, and he was doing all the recruiting. He was basically handling all the youth program stuff. And, he was the guy. We knew he was going to be the next guy in line once Coach Milloy decided to hang up the cleats and retire and all that. And it was after that game when we lost to DeMatha in the play. It was the semifinals playoff round, where I asked Coach Stefanelli, hey, I've been hearing you gonna be the guy. I've been hearing what's up. What's the plans for the off season? And it was literally that night. It's the night we lose to DeMatha, and he tells me, hey, we got to try out tomorrow. And I was with FBU. I was doing some stuff with FBU at the time, and I was doing. And I heard, and I was like, okay, the program's in good hands. So, Coach Stefanelli, a couple months later, Coach Stefanelli officially gets the job. And there was 1 year, I think it was the second year, where we won the CAC championship. We beat St. John's, and this was the year that St. John's had Rakim Jarrett. And being an FBU guy, I know the name Rakim Jarrett. Rakim Jarrett was he was supposed to be the next Stephen Diggs and all that, and he was there. He's currently playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of flipping on LSU, Rakim Jarrett was one of them dudes who flipped LSU and decided to go to Maryland. And the large part of the reason that he decided to go to Maryland was because of Stephen Diggs, and Stephen Diggs was the one of his mentors and all that kind of stuff, right? So anyway, here's what so again, they win that championship, but last year, again, you win one. Here's the thing about coaching, and I'll close you out with this concept and just this understanding of when you really are building something special, all right? And the same thing, hopefully it's going to be the same story when it comes to my Michigan Wolverines, right? Hopefully it's going to be the same story here. But it comes to coaching. When you inherit a new program, when you leave or when you are replacing the legend, quote unquote, the same way Sharon Moore is replacing Coach Harbaugh, when you're replacing a legend like Coach Stefanelli is replacing the legendary Coach Bob Milloy, you win your first championship. All the critics out there are going to say, oh, well, that was Coach Milloy. That was the one. That's what you inherited. You hear the term all the time. Oh, you're acting like you hit a triple, but you were born on third and all that nonsense, all that jazz. You're going to hear that for the first championship. They said the same thing about Mike Tomlin when he won his first championship from when he inherited the program or inherited the Steelers from Bill Cowher. It's the same thing with Stephen. Oh, well, that was still Coach Milloy's program, yada, yada, yada. But when they won last year in 2023, it was like, okay, Coach Stefanelli is him, boy. He's him. He's him. And I'll oh my gosh. So it was it. I could go for again. I'm running low on time. I knew I was gonna get long winded on this one, but so I was in Miami for the first game this year, and you know me, I'm always putting my stuff out there. I'm always putting out videos, always putting out content and stuff like that. And I'm tagging people, not knowing if they're gonna respond back or even if they know me, if they remember me. Again, I don't really care. All that stuff just goes out, and whoever picks up on it, picks up on it. It doesn't really matter to me. When you're in the content creation game, you just got to put it out there and just see what happens, see what flies, right? So I'm in Miami a couple months ago at the Good Counsel versus Columbus game, and again, because I knew the coaches, Coach Dickerson and Coach Mack, and and Coach Drew, and a lot of the guys and Coach Starr, a lot of guys that I knew when I went there, I got to be on the sideline and watch them. So the girl who is always retweeting my stuff whenever I'm tagging Good Counsel football and all that, she's always like re-Instagramming social media, just reposting and all that stuff. She's like, "Hey, wait, you're that I know you. You're that guy, that Swiftly guy." Even knew my real name, but it's so cool because it happened to be Coach Stefanelli's daughter who's the one doing all the socials and the posting and all that. And you see how close and tight the family is and the program, how it represents family, right? So what happened was last year, I remember watching them because they played again. They played on ESPN again against a team in Ohio, and they lost that game. But then they won. They ripped off 10 or 11 straight, and ended up winning the CAC championship. So DeMatha, just again like they always are, was a very, very good team. Last year they played on ESPN too. I remember they played St. John's on ESPN, and I'm not mistaken, I think they did win that game. Yeah, they did end up beating St. John's. So they beat DeMatha in the Good Counsel. We beat DeMatha in the regular season last year, and we beat them in the championship, but it was by literally 1 point. By one touchdown. And that win, just like you guys saw, that win solidifies the whole thing to where it was so rewarding, where you saw Drew damn near in tears, like, oh my God, we finally faced that. We finally tasted that victory at this stadium, and it's really, really special. So, again, I'm talking about all of this because this Sunday it's another classic rivalry, another classic showdown with the best rivalry in high school football. Can arguably the best high school rivalry in just all of high school sports, period. I spent the whole hour talking about this, and I still don't feel like I even scratched the surface on what all of this means. Wherever you are in this world, if you're really into seeing something that is going to mean a lot to a lot of different families, if you are a person that loves you some high school football, loves you some high school sports, just loves it, then it's a game that you will not regret. It's something that you would truly enjoy. So I strongly recommend you go watch it and understand that it just means so much. It means so much to a lot of people that have been a part of it, have seen it, have played in it, have grown from it, have given their heart and soul, have given everything they had to get that win, and to know that, when you leave that game and you put it all out there and you put your heart on the table and you try to find every way to win, know how much that carries over into your everyday life. Like I said earlier, I had teammates from that DeMatha team. I had them as teammates in college. I knew people that as I got into the coaching business and the scouting business, they were friends, and there were people that I played against when they were at that DeMatha team, and that built relationships, that built friendships. The people I played with, you can go along the list. You can go look at the people that have been on my podcast, been on my show. A lot of these people that I played with and been a part of it with knows how special that is, because these moments are something that you're just not going to get back in life. And it truly is special. So, I knew I was gonna get long-winded on this, but I had to dedicate a whole hour-long show. And what's funny about it is there have been times where I've attempted to talk about this rivalry in a 10-minute video, which it doesn't even closely doesn't do it justice. It's going to require hour after hour. It can require multiple episodes, multiple shows in terms of just breaking down the past 20 years and everything we've learned and everything I've learned, everything it's been about. But the main takeaway is the main thing. I'll leave you with this idea and this concept, because over here in the Move Swiftly world, what we do is we take the lessons from teamwork. We take the lessons about teamwork that are in sports, that we learn from sports, more in particular football, and we figure out ways to apply them to our business. The main takeaway, the main thing that you have to understand when it comes to this is competition is everything, man. Raising the level of competition, raising or being around folks that are going to bring the best out of you and competing and just going at it, haymaker after haymaker and going boom, bang, bang, all of that stuff is going to do so much good for you later on in life when you're facing situations in which you got to compete, when you're facing situations in which it's now a requirement for you to really bring the best out of yourself, really show yourself how good you want to be, and having someone, bring the best out of you. All that stuff is going to be super, super, super beneficial to you in life. So again, if you're a current player listening to me now, and you're getting yourself right, getting yourself ready for the game, just know, win, lose, or draw, give it your all. All right, give it everything you have. Do not leave anything. Just listen, don't take anything with you. Nothing's going to be more special than the moment that you're about to experience when you play in this game. Trust me, it's not going to get more. It is a beautiful, it's going to be a great moment for you. Soak it all in. Win, lose, or draw. You're going to become a better man. You're going to become a better man once that game is over and you gave it absolutely everything. And so many things, so many blessings and so many benefits are going to come to you later on in life because you gave it your all on that day. All right. So love all you guys, man. I appreciate you. There's so many blessings coming. Blessings have been coming this year. And, a lot of things have been changing for better, a lot of benefit, a lot of beneficial things have been happening to me because of the hard work and because of you listeners and because of the folks that are actually really tuning in and really buying into this work, buying into what I'm doing every day. And again, I'm not planning on going anywhere. You better get comfortable. It's like Coach Prime said, putting some furniture around here. So get comfortable because I'm not going anywhere. Main website to check out to dive deeper into all my work, it's makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. And Patreon. Tap into the Patreon link here. We officially have a membership now. It's patreon.com/as144. And guys, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon. I'll let the video play one more time as I close you guys out. Later, guys.
Playing against DeMatha, you guys kind of renew that rivalry. They didn't make it there last year. Does it kind of up the ante to be playing DeMatha in that?
Oh yeah, they just got a great program, a lot of tradition, a lot of championships, and we played them in the championship game down in Navy 5 years in a row and got beat. Then we have won the last three, not all against them, and so it's the same old rivalry, and they play real hard against Good Counsel.
What does the streak of championships mean to you?
Anyone, we know that's what we're going to face. You're not going to play good teams like Good Counsel and they're not going to make plays. So it's expected, and when it comes, we just are prepared to deal with it, and our kids did a great job in doing that.
What about the way both teams raised their level of play? And this was the championship stage, and both teams played very well. It might have been the best game I've seen all year in the WCAC.
That's just what it is. A great Good Counsel team, great coaches, great players, and whenever we match up and square off, this is what you're going to get, high-level football, and they bring the best out of us as we do them. So, this is exactly what we love.
Before the year, some idiot analysts such as myself said you guys might be too young. Was there a turning point this year where the young team kind of got it?
Yeah, sports show.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Washington Post High School Sports Show.
Hello.
Yeah, great. Time for our Geico big game. And in terms of coaching names, well, it doesn't get much bigger than DeMatha's Bill McGregor seeking his 200th career victory. But standing in his way, Good Counsel's Bob Milloy, who's going after his 281st victory. That's more than any active coach in Maryland. Both coaches have their teams off to unbeaten starts. But as they say in the biz,
something's going to have to give.
Well done. Mark Thomas is here with our Geico big game. What do you say?
What do I say?
Yeah.
You know, everybody said when Bob Milloy was hired at Good Counsel, it wasn't a matter of if he would have success, but rather when. And clearly, sitting on an unbeaten record right now, they are one of the most pleasant surprises of the season. They play mostly underclassmen. As for DeMatha, they're never really a surprise. Two of the guys that have really stood out are wide receiver Derek McPherson and quarterback Joe Dana. Dana once attended Good Counsel, so you know this one is special to him. And get this, Chick.
Yeah.
When he was in the 8th grade, he interviewed DeMatha head coach Bill McGregor for a homework assignment. Now, I don't know what kind of grade he got on that paper, but I do know that right about now, his coach gives him an A+ for his midseason progress report. We're hoping our Geico big game is just as good.
I waited 17 years for this, man. 17 years. Came back to Navy, played against DeMatha, and we #1, baby. Hey!